Sunday! Only a race plate 72 US 30 dragster. The Coca-Cola bottlers of Chicago Land present the Mr. Chevrolet USA Super Dual Body Car Showdown. From Pennsylvania, it's three-time national champion Jungle Jim Lieberman. From Dallas, Texas, Mark and Martin's Drag on Vega. From Alabama, the bold one, Bobby Wood. From New Jersey, Bruce Weston's Fantastic USA 1.
Greatest intro ever. It gets you like warmed up, you know.
Yeah, well,
warmed up for the show.
It's how you know it's definitely Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Central.
Yeah,
8 East.
Yeah, you know. So I started running again, and like I was just telling you off, man, I got wind burnt here, like so bad. It's so cold out here, man. Man, it just like chapped me. It like hurts, you know.
Well, apparently I've noticed here recently on the weather, there's probably no difference from where you live right now and where you used to live. It maybe less rain where you're living at now. So,
you know what's funny? You're probably right.
I know. And they used to tell me, "Hey, it's the weather. That's why everybody moves out here. Hey, how you liking that weather now?"
Right. Yeah. Have you seen the snow, man? Holy crap!
No, did they get a bunch?
Oh man, up there I have some friends that live up in like Placerville area up there, kind of by like Sacramento in the mountains there, and they have snow like taller than some of the trees there.
Oh, but that's normal, isn't it?
Not like this. Like, not like pine trees that are like, 50
20
feet
feet
tall.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that probably doesn't sound normal. But...
No.
All right. Well, before we get going, I just need to greet everyone. What Zonda 2B is here. Dean Stevenson, Uncle Squirrel, Fred78, waiting on the awesome intro. He got it. It came right at him at 7 o'clock. Boom. Let's see, Danny Boyd, Mr. Barrow's Garage himself. He says he's loaded up on cold meds, blizzard outside, and Wednesday night tech talk. Let's see where this takes us.
Nice,
it can't be bad because it started off with cold meds. So
right?
You're gonna love it. Let's see, Slant Daily Garage is here. Believe it or not.
Who let that guy in here? God.
Tom Brown, Scarlett the Four-Eyed Cuda, Michael Schmidt. Says, not sure who the duo is, but it seems like Dallas smells some horse crap, right? That's Farm Truckin' Asian. If you're not familiar with them, that's Farm Truckin' Asian. It's like, I figured the picture was going to sell it fast, but it didn't have the farm truck in the back. That was the only thing I was concerned about, but that's literally like a take from the show, where they're telling them what had happened during that period they were making something or whatever. But, yeah, Fab Race Mod Repeat is here. Hello from Speed Oasis headquarters. Auto Salvage Outlaws, A-Cove, Big Belly Racing. Let's see, Tom Brown is already throwing a question in here. Okay, I need your input on switching brands of motor or of oil in an engine. My brother thinks once you start with one, stick to it. I say it doesn't matter. Change as many times as you like.
I agree with that. It doesn't matter. Change as many times as you like.
Well, here the olden days, the olden days of motor oil, that actually used to be kind of true. Where Correct. If you would pick one and you stick with it, and that was because, what was it? The Pennzoil had a certain amount of paraffin in it. Yep. And then the others did not.
The Quaker State also had some too. Yeah.
What would happen is that paraffin would build up, and if you say you changed brands and went to Kendall One, GT1 oil. And you poured that in there, and you had been running that high paraffin level oil. It would wash all that paraffin into the pan, like as soon as it got warm, and then it would plug up your oil pump, and that used to be the way, like in the 40s, 50s, but now with like current motor oils, the advancement in motor oils has probably come the furthest in automotive engineering out of anything engine related.
I'd say in the last maybe 15 years, it's actually just gone in leaps and bounds better.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It is way different stuff. And I'll tell you, the way you can tell, if you really want to know the difference and you want to see it side by side, essentially in your face for free, go to the junkyard, find something from the 80s, pull the intake manifold off, find something from the 90s and pull the intake manifold off. Yeah. The 80s car will have your old school 70s style brown blackish sludge in the intake manifold. That 90s style, the engine, you can almost see the cast iron pores, and it'll have like this yellowish tint to it. That's
Correct.
it.
Yep.
Good stuff. All right, so Big Billy Racing says, good evening, Dallas, Professor P, and everyone in the chat. Let's see.
Good evening.
Yeah, and see, Scarlett agrees with what we were just talking about. I don't think changing brands matters. However, I don't think I would swap back and forth between traditional and synthetic oils. I do it all the time.
Yeah, it won't make any difference. Not anymore.
What I found was synthetic oils, if you're using an older engine, let's say you have cork oil pan gaskets, okay?
There you go.
A cork oil pan gasket, after about 3 months of driving around with synthetic oil, will start to weep synthetic oils. They actually get out in between the pores of the cork. It'll start weeping around. And what
that's
happens?
actually why I made those load spreaders for the valve cover. It's because I run synthetic oil in my Slant 6s.
And it has only cork gaskets or
only cork gaskets. Yeah, so I made that load spreader, cured that problem right off the bat.
Well, I've noticed that newer style RTV, like say, is it the one of the good stuff, the great stuff?
The right stuff.
The right stuff? Okay. Yeah. If you coat a cork oil pan gasket in that stuff and apply it like right away and let it dry up in place, it will not weep like that. That stuff is really freaking good.
I love that. That's I use the black or the gray exclusively. I don't use anything else on the engine at all. That stuff just works beautifully.
Yeah. But so if you go to a traditional motor oil, I switch back and forth because what'll happen is in the summertime, I do so many miles a year in the AHRA Ford truck that I cut my overhead by going to traditional motor oil, and I run it for 4,000 miles. I know that your recommended change is 3,000 miles, but literally I can do 2 weekends and nail 4,000 miles, right? So the good thing is you just run the traditional motor oil, and then when it gets to the wintertime, what I do is I'll drop it down to like a 5W30 or a 5W20, whatever I can get for a reasonably decent price. But I'm shooting for the startup, right, in the wintertime. And it never, in the winter, most of my junk doesn't drive more than 20 miles. I don't go very far from home in the wintertime. In the summer, I'll run it to death. But I know it's kind of opposite of what you would normally think, but the synthetic oils, I use it for the huge variation in temperature variance that you can do with those, and it still maintain its viscosity at lower temperatures. So when you start it up, your oil's right there. There's no knocking, no clatter, nothing like that. And then you drive, you come home, it's still nice and viscous. You didn't get it hot.
Yeah. My wife's car takes 0.20 oil.
I'm wondering what does the tolerances got to be on that?
That's what I was thinking.
How do they hold anything in there?
I checked it out, like how thin it was comparatively, like just did a pour test, like super unscientific, just cap full like this. And man, that stuff is almost as thin as water. It really looks just like water.
That might be something that's worthwhile doing, is where you do a viscosity test, but you do it the poor man's way. Because, you could do it a super expensive, send it off and get it analyzed and burn it and all that craziness.
Put it in the freezer.
Or you could literally put it on a paper towel at a 45-degree angle and just pour it at the top and watch it run and see how far it runs in a certain amount of time.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
And I bet you could do it with water. You could do it with cold, hot, the whole 9 yards, and it would just freaking have all kinds of... I don't know, at Project Farm too,
Right? I think he's done this with I'm going to search that out. I'm going to see if he's done that. But I got to tell you, I was checking it out, and I always put the oil in the sun before I put it in there. Obviously, I get the engine warm before I change it. But I was pouring that in, and literally it was going in just as fast as water. There was no glug. It was just pouring like a cup of water.
Wow. Yeah. I didn't know it was that thin. I know that I got, let's see, our Ford Expedition has a 530 motor oil, and I thought it was thin, but it technically, up to temperature, it's no thinner than regular 30 weight, right? So,
yeah, that's correct.
Okay, Travis Mopar Garage says, okay, what's up with the farm truck and Asian theme now?
He nailed it. He got it.
Yeah. Well, and so here's the thing. All I was doing is I've been picking automotive duos on television, right? Television automotive duos. They're, great duos in time. Mm-hmm. And I've been kind of cropping them and putting mine Shane's face on them, and then making a thumbnail out of it. And I had every intention this week I was going to do BJ and the Bear. Okay.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't. I didn't know if I was going to get that one, but I didn't even get that far because I had a list, and then this farm truck and Asian popped up, and it was actually a different picture, and it had not the farm truck, but that burnout farm truck that they did in the background, and I'm like, oh my god, that would make it so obvious. Mm-hmm. But I had to find the right picture. Here, I'll show you.
Are we gonna go straight John Wilburn here on the phone?
No, this is better than that. This is, I think, better.
You're high tech?
I don't know. We'll see if I can even find it. Okay. What is the number on 2002 or 2022? Okay, present. It won't let me do a picture file.
Whatever.
All right. Well, that sucks. But yeah, I just put it back on my desktop. The just the picture that they had where they were interviewing was freaking fantastic. All right. So, have we got any questions? Did you have anything new that you wanted to talk about?
No, I like I said, I just haven't really. I mean, besides getting my. Oh, actually, I might. I got my Power Glide transmission started. We're gonna start building that.
Power Glide.
Yeah. Well,
what's that for?
That's gonna be for the '66 start when I put the kit to it.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
You're gonna put a Glide in it?
Dude.
Didn't that thing have like the world's beefiest 904 or something?
It does, but I don't. But the thing is that I'm with a 550. You really don't need 3 gears. You're basically, if I'm going to leave in the line, that thing's going to be making probably 800 horse or something like that.
Yeah,
so
probably 800 foot-pounds of torque
or more, probably. So I don't need that. In a car that weighs under 3,000 pounds, I don't need first gear, and so. I'm just going to put a Glide in it. And what's nice about that, too, is that I'm building the Glide so that way when I go to the Gen 3 Hemi supercharged, the Glide will already be set up. So I got a bell housing coming for it and everything. So,
gotcha.
And I got a Ford 9-inch coming for it. So I'm going to go with the 411 gear in it,
Didn't you have an 8.75 in there to begin with?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I got
Dude, that thing robs so much less power.
Yes, but I'm going to be hitting it with 1,000 foot-pounds of torque.
Speaking of that, hey, I need to order that book for the 9.3 Pontiac. You know how we talked about it when I had put that did the video on doing the 9.3 and the 63 special. Okay, I found out that the book in there answers just about every question I possibly have on it, but it has less high point angle than a 9-inch Ford, which would mean that it's
Less
actually
power
in the
rob.
running for robbing the least amount of power. And when I talked to the guys at Fabcraft, I think that's who it was. Yeah, that is Fabcraft. I talked to the guys at Fabcraft, and they're the ones that make all the stuff, and they wrote the book and all that stuff. And he said, no, you're going to find out it robs about the same amount of power as 8.75 Chrysler.
Oh, that's good then.
Yeah, but it's way beefy, right?
Yeah.
So
Well, that's good. The only reason I'm going with the Ford 9-inch is because I'm going to be hitting that thing when I get the Gen 3 Hemi in there. That thing's going to be making probably 1,400 horse.
Jeez.
Yeah, so or more. I'm going to go after that 850 dial in. So
Chris
you know what?
Cox-
Hey, go back up. There's 4. There's a bicycle guy 111.
Oh,
He has-
I blew past this question. Okay.
Yep.
Bicycle Guy 111. Hey guys, bought my first double pumper carb the other day. Any recommendations on converting to blow through? Going on my 2332 CCVW. Decided against Weber's.
I did this exact thing. mine was instead of a 2332, I had a 2275. I had a 2332 with Weber's, and I did a blow through on that. Yeah, the biggest thing on that is that you're going to have to get seals on the shaft depending on how much power you're going to run. And the biggest problem you're going to have is that sometimes you're going to have to change the base plate or cover up those holes because you're going to obviously have a massive leak there. Other than that, just get a boost reference gauge for your fuel, so that way it can raise the pressure accordingly. So that way you're gonna, whatever you put 10 pounds here, you're gonna have 10 pounds trying to blow through the, on the bowls. Other than that, it's an awesome setup. I've already done it and it works beautiful.
Well, I think they used to make an intake manifold for, and I'm certain that if he's got excuse me, this kind of cubic inch, CC Volkswagen motor. Okay, this is to put it to you. I don't know, old bees, I guess, not the newbies, but the old bees. This would be a 2.3 liter 4-cylinder Volkswagen. Okay, that's pretty damn big because considering they were like what 1600 cc.
Yeah, this is 9484 is what this is.
Right. So, I'm sure it's a dual port motor at this point.
Oh
yeah. Here's what I'm thinking though. They used to make an intake manifold for a dual port that had, it just had a 4150 flange on it, right? And it had all 4 runners coming to that one where it's set up above the motor. Have you seen that?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And they also have one too.
Is that what he's using? Something like that?
It's going to be something like that. Now, I've done a blow through and I've done a suck through. Now, the suck through works better when it's running, getting it started, and the delay. It's not great on the street, but for drag racing, the suck through I noticed was better. On the street, the blow through ran better because it just had less of a time for the fuel to get into the runners. Instead of going through the turbo and then cooling it. Yeah, that's basically kind of what he's running. Is it basically it's going to sit kind of it's not going to it might not even have a fan shroud on it at that point because of the way the carb's going to sit, and then it basically goes on top, so it comes straight down and then goes basically out to each one. Huh. And with all the heads like the most common head was like no 41 style head, and then they had and then Superflow came out with their heads, and those were like the really bitchin' heads. They had like a 3-bolt head. They had just come out when I was getting out of the whole Volkswagen scene.
I like the Volkswagen scene in Southern California. It was awesome. It was still happening in the 90s, and that's what I thought was cool. It was not happening anywhere else I'd seen. Yeah. Let's see. Fab Race Mod Repeat says the paraffin buildup would wreak havoc on shaft rockers.
Yes.
On the shafts. So, and I have a zillion of them. I got a zillion Buick shafts where a rocker would eat through the shaft. Mm-hmm. And you always wondered, like, how does that aluminum eat through this hardened steel? Guess what, buddy? It's called paraffin. That's what it
exactly
does.
Right.
Okay. Let's see here.
Yeah, I'm kind of going through too.
Okay, so Twisted Mopar Garage says their Hemi is 520 synthetic, but lots of cars engine designed for synthetic decades ago. Yes, but now they're starting to get to these super thin oils because they can save 3 horsepower and you can get 2 more miles to the gallon.
Exactly.
That's the whole point of it, right? Holy cow. Tom Brown says he uses 040 synthetic oil in my 85 FJ60 Land Cruiser in the winter in North Dakota. 1040 in the summer, going on 300,000 miles. And,
Makes
that's
sense.
exactly what I do in my old white Ford and in the Suburban. I do the same thing. The Suburban, I put 540, and it doesn't get cold here near as what it does in North Dakota. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, like, let's see. It got down to -4 my first year. I retired from the Navy and moved here to Tennessee. And my buddy he was like, man, you got to come here. This is the greatest place ever. So I'm like, all right. So, I moved here. And he called me like, man, I'm so sorry. It's -4. And I'm like, yeah, this sucks, dude. I'm used to living near the coast, and it's never this cold. And he's like, it's never been this cold since I've lived here, ever. And the following winter, I want to say it got down to like 0. And then now it's back to being nice. I think the coldest day of the year we had this year might have been 20.
Really?
Yeah, it was not.
Oh, yeah.
We didn't have anything super duper cold.
Well, we had the teens here one time.
Did you?
Yeah, well, because we had
maybe early in the morning it might have been the teens.
Yeah, no, actually, we had it. It was we had 2 days below 0 here.
Oh wow, yeah, we didn't have that. We did not have that. Huh. Let's see. Twisted Mopar Garage says I run 1030 synthetic in my race car. I have since I built it. And it's actually pretty low end for race car oil. Most of the time you'll see it's like a 1040 or SA30 is another big one that everybody runs, where that if you've ever started something up on SA30, God, that oil's thick when it's cold. It's thick.
On my Dart, I used to run 530 in that my race car.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah.
I always ran 40 weight.
Yeah, I just didn't need it because I had my bearings at, 2.5. So basically I would just get it started and it would protect like a 30 weight. So that's all I needed was 30 weight. So I used the 530 just to get it, because when you're turning it over, it takes a second, to get oil up there. So that way it would just basically knock that down.
So Barrow's saying synthetics have an odor to them. Every engine I've torn down that runs synthetics has that odd stink to it, and everything is bronzed. There's another thing too that if you ever noticed is once you're done tearing it down and you get that motor oil on your hands, it doesn't come off easily, and your hands will actually start to turn red. They'll flare up.
Yeah.
Have you noticed that?
And not only that too, but when you scrub it off, your hands bead water even after for a while afterwards.
Like days, yeah.
Yeah, it's just you can't get rid of it. Yeah.
Let's see.
But I know what he's talking about on that odor because I remember when Mobile One came out and everybody was like they had the blue top, the gray top, and the red top. I noticed that too. I was like, man, there's like a stink to it, like a smell,
I wonder if that's because it's made of natural gas. I believe that's what most of that synthetic motor oil comes from, right?
Yeah.
Is collected natural gas.
Yeah. That Pennzoil stuff has been really good. I've seen a lot of testing on it. They have the Pennzoil Ultra Clean or whatever it's called. It's a Pennzoil
Is that the
synthetic.
silver one?
No, it's. I'll show it to you. But Project Farm did some testing on it because we did some testing on it ourselves, and it came out really good. And it's really good oil. I actually use it on the wife's car.
Tom Brown he says, Shane, you should do the 2-speed 400 with the switch pitch you guys were talking about a few weeks ago.
Yeah, the only problem with that though is that because some of those internals are slightly different and that input shaft is hollow.
That's the big one. Is that input shaft is smaller and hollow.
Yeah, and I would just go with what I'm going to do with it. I did think about that, and I was looking at it and I was looking for it, but yeah, I just can't. I can't trust it with what I'm going to do.
I think, to tell you the truth, the only way that would be beneficial right there is if I had something like a 455 Buick with a blow-through turbo setup or a EFI turbo setup, and that's where it would reign supreme because it would so much torque.
Yep.
And then you're throwing away all that extra horsepower from the rotating mass of the Turbo 400. Yep. But, man, I think it would really reign supreme.
Yeah. No, I saw that when I was going through some of these questions. I was laughing. I was like, man, I was already thinking about that. But the input shaft is what killed it for me.
Territory, Dallas. Rover V8 head bolt thread update. Made a 1/2-inch plate for mounting a magnetic drill for a perpendicular cut. Clamped plate using remaining deadbolt threads on block. Ordered.
Nut sets?
I don't know what that weird looking thing is.
Oh, king certs. The king. You see the little emblem of the king?
Oh, okay. Yeah, king
certs.
nut sets. Okay.
Yeah. So we got those king certs. Yeah.
Huh.
Good. Awesome. Good job.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Bitchin'.
That's
because they got to be
cool.
straight. They have to be dead straight.
Well, and I'm kind of wondering what he's actually trying to do. I can't remember what this guy's trying to do.
I think he had the stripped out threads.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was asking about the king certs.
Yeah. So he got some king certs and he's going to put them in there.
Huh. All right. Well, awesome. Because it started making me wonder. Like, I made spacers for a 215 intake to fit on a 300 before. And that's when I started thinking maybe he was doing something like that. I was just looking at an intake manifold on a Rover, a later Rover truck, or like the Discovery or whatever, at the junkyard the other day. Dude, that intake is the same as a 215 for sure.
Yeah.
And they're EFI. And I'm kind of wondering if I should grab one of those, make the spacers, put it on a 300, and do a blow-through turbo setup on a 300 Buick, which is virtually the same as the V6. I think that would be really killer.
That'd be cool.
Let's see. All right. Twisted Mopar Garage says they've mixed oil for decades as well. I do that all the time. I know Shane does too. I try to mix it for the viscosity I want, right?
And the amount of synthetic I want.
Let's see.
Michael Roberts.
I didn't see anything from Michael Schmidt.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 down from that one. There you go.
Missed it. Okay, Michael Roberts says, I'm told to stay away from Ford Alphabet cams. What do you guys think would be a good street cam for a 331 stroker with 10-to-1 compression and cast iron Windsor Juniors?
I already got the cam. Got it right here. It's actually Magnum computer-controlled hydraulic roller camshaft for the Ford 5.0. It is 220/224 on a 112 LSA. That's not going to be the biggest cam, but that will give you a driver, and that's going to be somewhere in that, let's call it 2,000 to 5,500 RPM range. Great cam for the street.
I don't know why anybody would say stay away from the Alphabet cams. Is
They
that just
work
because
good.
they're 30 years old?
Well, the ramp rates on them are not they're really slow. So there's even though you can get the same numbers from like a modern style profile, you're just going to gain more air into the curve, which makes more power. They worked great for them at the time. This one here is a smaller cam. This would be like, I think it's the E, which is a 220/220, isn't it? And then the B is a 224.
I'll tell you exactly what it is. I got an E right here, the cam card right here on my desktop. Because I'm in love with that cam.
Yeah.
Okay, it's 220/220,
Yep.
498 all around, and it doesn't say what the LSA is.
No, they're like at about 114. Yeah, and then the other one, the 224, is 110. So
See, that's where I would be at if I had this motor. If this was me, 331 is. I'll tell you right now, I love small block Fords, and the 331 is my favorite stroker small block Ford setup, by far, hands down. I love Alphabet cam. You can't. I have never had any luck with any other thing, and the E-cam always rung my bell. It was a freaking fantastic street camshaft. And when that cam came out, it originally it was the most expensive camshaft ever made for any engine, right? Because
Even a
Ford,
heavy.
right? Well, Ford at the time, you got to think about when this camshaft came out. Probably was 1988,
yeah,
89.
1990s. Yeah.
They wanted this thing to be emissions compliant. So they spent so much time in engineering and developing this camshaft to one that made power, but yet was still emissions compliant.
Yeah.
And that's why it became one of the most expensive camshafts to ever build and design.
Wow.
Because you got to think this is 1988 and 89, right?
That's true, yeah. No computers.
It was right after Mass Air came out. It was the first camshaft you could buy for a Mass Air application. I do remember that. And that's why it's named the E, because it's emissions friendly, right?
Oh, is that what it is? Okay.
That's what I was always told.
Yeah. I honestly had no idea why there was the E, the E or the B, but the cam I was talking about is a comp cam. Part number on it is 35-302-8.
And it sounds like it's very similar to like a B.
Yes, it
The
is.
B cam is like that would be the one I would recommend. If you're going to use an Alphabet cam, that would be the one I'd recommend for this combination, because it's bigger than the E cam, but since your cubic inch is 30 cubic inch bigger, it's going to take advantage of that larger camshaft, and it'll how do you say this? I don't know. It'll mild it down some.
Yes, I call it dumbing it down. Yeah, it'll dumb down the cam, and it'll eat it up. And this thing is 512, 533 as far as the lift goes, so nothing crazy. Still, your factory stuff will take care of it, and it's on a 112 separation, so it's definitely going to make some noise. And the only reason why I didn't like some of the Alphabet cams, for one reason, is there was no extra duration on the exhaust for that style of head, where that head has a really crappy exhaust port on it. So that's the reason why I like the 4 degrees more on the exhaust side. You'll pick it up on the top end.
Yeah, it sticks to the standard Windsor design for the exhaust side, and here's something funny. The Windsor head performs so poorly compared to a Cleveland that the Cleveland racers used to call that the Weezer head, right? And but I mean, if you're talking Cleveland, you could virtually call any cylinder head a Weezer head. I mean,
yeah,
because it is just that damn good. But the Windsor, that was always its biggest downfall was the exhaust lag on it. It's just fairly poor, and if you raise them, that was the big thing about the AFRs. I think the 165 head is almost the same as a factory style head, the E7 head, but I think they raised the exhaust port the intake runner's bigger all around, but the exhaust port was raised like 1/2 inch or 3/4 of an inch, made all the difference in the world. All right. So Bicycle Guy 111 says that my intake is made by Rad. Use factory intake elbows, 044 heads, going on a street legal 58 Baja Bug with cooling tins.
Awesome. You know that I think the guy's name at Rad is Rodney. I used to help him out with his cams when he first got started back in 17, and he was the only one there that really knew anything about, when I was at Crowder, that knew anything about Volkswagens. So I helped him out quite a bit. So yeah, he's a good guy. Yeah, I worked a lot with him. But yeah, that's 044 heads. That's actually what I meant to say instead of 041. I meant to say 044 heads. But yeah, this sounds like a great setup. Yeah, it's gonna be bitchin'. You'll be stoked. I know exactly which intake you're talking about too.
Michael Schmidt says, Holley double pumper question regarding a 454 with small supercharger and a Holley 850. The Holley is the early version 4781 from early 70s. Do I drill blowout protection or buy a new base plate with it?
Buy a new base plate.
I don't know anything about it, so I'm going to go with Shane on this one. And I'll let you guys in on a secret. The very first Holley-based carburetor I've owned I just got like last year, right? I'm not Mr. Holley. I'm not.
Yeah.
And the only reason I'm using one is because it's going on a racing application. And if you saw it in the video where I broke in the camshaft on the super stock motor, that was the first Holley I'd ever had. And I put it on that motor and it wouldn't run right. And first thing I did was, I didn't even think the points that were all jacked up on it. I took the carburetor off and I put a quadrojet on it to break it in.
Because you didn't know what to do. You're like, oh, what do I do
Yeah,
here?
it was too steep of a learning curve. I don't know anything about this.
I remember my very first Holley.
I'm uncomfortable.
I actually had put the Edelbrock back on it so that way I could kind of learn how to tune the Holley. This was way back then. And I was just like, man, I don't even know what to do. This is before books or anything like that. And
I turned the 4 screws and nothing's working.
Yeah, right. I think I got a Vizard book. Did Vizard make a tuning the Holley? Was that him? I don't know.
Oh, I don't know. There's a Grump one too, I think.
Maybe it was the Grump one. Maybe that's who it was. I don't remember, but I got a Holley how to tune the Holley carburetor, and that's actually how I learned it.
Let's see. Twisted Mopar Garage is saying design of oil passages are far. I'm assuming this is far smoother of older generation engines. It's what I'm assuming is probably what that is. They do now reduce a lot of the casting flash in them because a lot of them. Well, I don't know. It just depends what engine you have because a lot of those older engines, technically like let's say a Ford or even Chevrolet, just has like a little elbow, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then a Ford has a steel tube. That's 5/8 inch. What does a Mopar have?
For which one? Which part?
The oil passage from the pickup to like the main oil feed. Is it a tube?
Oh yeah, no, it's a tube. Yeah, it doesn't come right off the pump too. It actually screws in and it goes all the way to the center because Chrysler's got that drag link. So the oil pump, basically the sump's in the center and the oil pump's in the back on the small block, on the big block's in the front. But they both have these big long tubes that go to the front.
Yeah, the Buick has it doesn't even have a casted passage in it. It's actually drilled. So, I mean, there's a spot for it in the block, and it actually runs through all the main webbings. Mm-hmm. That's why if you blow a Buick up, that's what absolutely sucks about them, is generally if you kick a rod, and if it even hit the block, you probably cracked the oil passage.
Oh, and it's done.
Yeah.
I got you, yeah.
So, let's see. What Zonda 2B says, Dallas, have you ever owned any of the cool 80s turbo cars like the T-Type GN? No. I have not. I actually, I kind of kicked myself because I was in the right age group to get one of those for a reasonable price, right? You remember, Shane? I mean, like what? Graduated high school, you could have went and got a Grand National as 4 or 5 years old, right? Or a T-Type. They were still, at that time, I know this is not going to sound good, but you could go get a used one for about 12 grand, 12 to 14 grand, okay? Mm-hmm. But you got to remember, a brand new car was 9 grand, okay? Brand new. Brand new S10 truck was $9,000.
Right?
And you're talking a 4 or 5 year old Grand National, $12,000. And guess how it had been driven to the floor every day for the 4 or 5 years. So, there was some nice ones out there, but they were usually upwards of like $18,000.
And a lot of them were beat. My friend had one, and it was just destroyed. Like it barely ran that good, you know.
I remember seeing one in San Diego in the old Auto Trader magazines that we were talked about. Shane and I talked about. About '96, I saw one in the Auto Trader that had just been flogged from day one. And I mean, this thing was the epitome of rode hard, put away wet, right? It was $3,000. There wasn't a straight panel on it, right? The motor smoked. It didn't knock, but it was just, the whole car was just ragged out. You would have spent $18,000 back then restoring it. But I'll tell you, the heyday of all that stuff, the neat 80s cars, the Turbo TAs, the T-Type, the Grand National, even their IROC Camaros, the 5-liter Mustangs, all of them were beat hard from day one, and nobody ever went and bought those. The ticket was like what I did when I came back from Japan. My first duty station was Japan, so I was there 3 years and came back to the States. And I didn't have a car, so I'm like, man, I'm looking at these Mustangs and these Grand Nationals and T-Types, and they all had one thing in common: they weren't going to make it 400 miles, let alone 100,000 miles.
Yeah.
So I needed to find something that was reliable, but yet I could still have fun with it. It was a performance car, and I looked at T-Birds, Cougars, because they came with the same dang drivetrain as a Mustang 5-liter, except for old people owned them, so they were in good shape.
Perfect shape. Yeah.
Yeah. And I got one with, had 55,000 miles on it, was 11 years old, and perfect. Drove it every day for like a long time, and then it got wrecked. So, all right. Fabrice Mod Repeat says that synthetic coating in the engine will make your hands waterproof, and yes, it does stink.
Isn't what I just said? It makes it just waterproof, like beads off,
Oh, John's bringing up something pretty interesting. Mr. Wilburn chimed in to throw us his knowledge, which is generally very warranted. The Nelson Snivlac 57 have the best formula for evaluating what weight of oil to run. Very interesting. Oh, wow. Well, I'll tell you my cheap rule of thumb.
Yeah.
Yeah, the way I was always told to do it. If you have 0.002 of bearing clearance or more, is 0.002 to essentially 0.003 is 30 weight. 0.003 or more is 40, and then you start getting into 50 weight, right?
See, I was told the same type of thing, but it also goes on diameter of bearing too, so you have to factor that in.
That I never really considered, but
because of bearing speed. So yeah, so if you have 0.002, but it's a 3-inch bearing, then you're going to want to run it thinner, because it's a much thinner surface all the way around. But if it's a 2.5-inch diameter, journal, and you're running 0.002, then you can get away. Then you want to run the thicker oil.
Yeah, I guess I probably need to sit down and see what Andrew Nelson's got for for this formula, because I just kind of stick to the old school rule of thumb, But what you're saying, Shane, makes all the sense in the world, because the bigger the bearing you had, the more oil it's going to need.
That's right.
But all right, so Bicycle Guy 111, how do you guys manage multiple projects? I've got my 70 Longhorn Chevy, my 1940 Chevy, my 58 Baja Bug. Between work and my 1-year-old daughter, it's rough, but only one car out of 3 doesn't run. All right. Well, and this is, I'll be honest with you. This past 6 months has probably been the worst for me in this criteria.
3 for me. Last 3 months, I haven't done shit.
I have been swamped with all other things, but what I normally do is when I don't, as you can tell, you add one thing onto my plate, one extra thing, like say I got to write a rule book for the AHRA, or I got to chase a track for the AHRA, and everything comes to a standstill and crashes right in my driveway, right? And it sits there until I'm back on track. I've had 3 things crash me this winter, and I really haven't got things back on track. The last time I did a video was a month ago. But when I have things up and going, and don't beat yourself up about it, because guess what? Those projects aren't going anywhere. If they don't run and nothing works, they're not driving out of your driveway anytime soon.
Yeah.
So when you get to them, you get to them. But I
That's the
have
way I
this.
look at it.
I have this philosophy that I stick to for everything in life. It's called the spinning plates theory, right? If you're wanting to do multiple things at the same time, you do the spinning plates. All right. So, have you heard this before, Shane? Have I told you this?
No, but I can kind of figure it out. You do a little each time, right? A little
Right.
at each
And
spot.
that's how you do it. If you look at the spinning plate guy from the circus, right? You put one plate on the dowel and just spin it. And once that one's spinning, you grab the next plate, put it on the dowel, and spin that one. Then you go back and touch the first. Okay. Then you put your third one up, and you spin that one up. And then you go to the second one and hit that one. And then you go back to the first one, and you hit that one. And then you put your fourth one up. You spin that one. And then you go to the third, spin that, second, hit it, and first, and then hit it. And then eventually what will happen is your first will finish. You get done with that project, and you're driving it, or you sold it, or you moved on, or whatever. And so you take that plate down, and you just keep doing those in a row. What I have noticed though is this year I worked so hard doing all that stuff that I really burnt myself out on it, and I stretched myself really thin, and I started cheating my family and myself, and I felt it was probably necessary to stop, take a big breather, and then just focus on me, my family, and only do what's necessary at the moment.
I'm doing the exact same thing. That's kind of what I've had some personal things going on, and I just wanted to take a step back, look at the bigger picture, and focus on the family for the last 3 months.
Like what I was saying last week, I was kind of beating myself up because I haven't made a video in a month or whatever. You know what? YouTube's not going anywhere.
Nope.
Right? And
It's not.
nobody's stealing my content, not anymore. So I'm definitely, I don't know. I'm not going anywhere. If somebody gets something that I was going to do, no big deal. I'll move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
And it seems like there's a few guys moving into the Buick community, wanting to doing their own Buick stuff, which is kind of interesting because it gives me food for thought. But
Awesome.
yeah, I do need to start doing some videos because there's been too many questions asked about small block stuff here recently.
Yeah.
Let's see.
And,
Let me
and
catch
for
up.
me, I haven't even really gotten to my emails yet. I just haven't plain had time to do anything like that. So if I've neglected you, I apologize. I'm looking and I can see that there's a lot there because I don't even look at this thing until Wednesdays. Next week, I should be getting things back on track. So I should start. You should start hearing from me again probably sometime next week. That's when things are gonna be more or less back to normal. Let's put it that way.
So Territory says, Dallas Shana, I'd be honored if you guys followed me on YouTube, as it will soon start the installation of the nutserts on the Rover V8.
Well, what's the name of the YouTube
I'm
page?
assuming his YouTube page is Territory.
You know what? Yeah, right there. Right, that makes sense.
Yeah. I'll have to do it after the video, to tell you the truth. I can't do it.
I'm gonna
during
go
the
full John Wilburn right now.
Well, that's fine. But I will try to. I need to write a reminder to myself. I'll go check it out.
Terra Tor. All right, you're about to get another subscriber right here. How about that? Terra Tor. Boom. Does it come up? No. I don't know.
Well, if it doesn't come up, I'm sure he's still right here, so he'll throw a. We can
Put a link.
Mr.
Put a link.
Wilburn's in here. Yeah, throw a link up to there, Mr. Wilburn. I'll go click on it.
Yeah,
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well,
can't find it.
dang, we're way behind because this is not even showing up. Fab Race Mon Repeat sent $19.99 for a super chat. Man, you didn't have to do that. You didn't even ask a question. You should have asked something cool. But
But you know what? In true John Wilburn fashion, it keeps the lights on. There you go.
It keeps the lights on. And it does. Hopefully it inspires other folks to do the same. And if not, if you want something for your cash, throw a question up there. You don't like asking a question, go to the AHRA merch page on eBay and get yourself some merch. And then you get a product for your cash.
We're way behind because people are talking about alphabet cams. We're about 20 minutes behind. Yeah, because they're. I would say just.
Well, let me catch up.
Yeah, just jump up.
Okay. On the eve of math of the 5.0 HO. Okay. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. John Wilburn put up a thing for the oil video. at 7:40 p.m. He put up a link of it for the YouTube. So if you guys see that in the chat, John Wilburn put it up there. Might want to post that one more time, John, just so we get a freshie coming up.
And John says he has a book on the Holley. Yeah, we fell way behind. Man, what did I get hung up on?
Yeah.
Slacking. Let's see here. And then there's one on Cat telling me I missed a super chat. I think I just took too long doing something else and I fell way behind. Okay, I'm trying to catch up where he's talking about where John Wilburn threw something up at 7:40. Man. Oh, okay. So the Nivlac oil video. Designed for turbo applications, but interesting info regardless. Okay, well, I'll have to check that out.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm going to go back and check this out too myself. I'm going to see what these guys say.
Yeah. It looks like Ron Ward has jumped in here.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Let's see.
Oh, Patrick. Patrick at 7:43 asked a question about a camshaft for his 360 roller engine. Patrick, send that to my phone. Just send a text to me, and I'll get to it. Because I'm going to need some more information, RPM, weight of car. I mean, there's a lot more information I'm going to need. Just send a text to me, and that way I'll have all the information here, and then I can basically do it live over the air here.
Let's see. Oh, Mohawk 62 subbed you, Mr. Territory. Let's see. John's thrown the Nivlac oil video up again.
Yeah. Thanks, John.
Okay, Dallas. There is a channel called Tasty Classics brings back old cars. He looks a lot like me.
What? No.
Maybe that's me. Maybe that's what I've been doing recently is laying low and filming my own channel
I got
on
a
Tasty
second
Classics.
page. One's not good enough. I got to
have
what,
two.
What
was funny is I went to the Buick Nationals last year, and there was people recognizing me from there, like, man, hey, don't you recognize me? No, not at all. I don't know who you are.
Sorry, man.
You
see my face, but I can't see yours.
Yeah, I was asking you questions on Wednesday Night Tech Talk. Oh, okay. Yeah, what's your screen name? Because that's what I'll know you by.
Yeah.
But, and a lot of people don't. It doesn't work like the phone, or you know what I mean. Let's see. Oh yeah, and Dr. Art brings up a good question here. Dr. Art's Hot Rod Rehab is no longer doing the Monday night chats that he was doing. And I feel bad because I never had an opportunity to get in there dealing with it anymore. But ask your cam gear question. Okay, so and this leads back, and Shane, hopefully you can answer this. I don't know.
Sure.
I've heard multiple different ways all over the place. Okay. My white Ford F-250 that's cobbled together out of junkyard stuff. After 7 years of screwing with it and trying to get the EFI right, I had it right 2 years ago, and then the TPS failed on it. And then I've been fighting it ever since for the past 2 years, and I just can't get it right. So this week I knuckled down and I bought all the stuff to convert it to a quadrajet carburetor, right?
Yep.
I was just going to quadrajet that sucker and be done with it. But the reason why it took me so long to do it was it took me forever to find an intake manifold to fit a Q-jet. I didn't want something that was an adapter because it actually, I think they create more problems than they fix, but because they leak, they cause vacuum leaks. And so I wanted something that fit. And I found an intake manifold called a Street Dominator from Holley from the 80s that was used. Well, it was new old stock used. Okay. I got a HEI distributor that's a Ford 351 Windsor-based distributor from Davis Unified Ignition, DUI, right, out of Memphis.
Yep.
And I was telling Dr. Art this, and he's like, oh, man, make sure you get that hardened cam gear, right, or the gear on the distributor. And I'm like, really? I've heard a couple of times that the Ford factory cams are not a billet camshaft because they're a roller. Most of the time your rollers are made out of billet, and you have to run a sacrificial cam gear or a composite cam gear on a billet cam. But on the factory rollers, they were still cast iron blanks, so the gears on those don't
Should be
wear.
factory. Yeah.
You can run an iron gear on that, is what I've been told. And
Yes.
and he said, no, I've wiped 2 of those distributor gears like that.
But were they aftermarket though?
Well, this one says it's for an early one. And it's
that
not a
could be-
steel cam gear. It is a iron cam gear.
Oh, okay.
Or not cam gear. Distributor gear.
Mm-hmm.
But so I'm kind of on the fence on what to do about my cam gear on this HEI. It's an aftermarket HEI from DUI to fit this 351 Windsor.
You can always just go melanized. Melanized works on anything.
Can you do 100,000 miles on a melanized? Isn't that the plastic one?
Yeah, I mean, probably not 100,000. Maybe 20, 25.
Yeah. Well, I'm just kind of wondering what to do. Should I? Here's what I'm thinking. Can I just take the cam gear off of my factory distributor and put it on there?
Yeah, absolutely. If it's a
Okay.
factory camshaft, absolutely. That's exactly what you can do. As long as it's a factory, not an aftermarket camshaft, but a factory Ford camshaft, and then it should be the exact same one. You just take the gear off and put it on there. It should be, I think they're what, 1/2 inch. I think is what a factory Ford is.
Well, I'm thinking I might be able to. I'm gonna get this. I'm gonna get this swapped for cheap. See, the reason why, I guess I just looked up 351 Windsor distributor, and I figured it's got to be the only distributors you can get for fitted 351. Nope, wrong. Yeah, for the old cams, they do have the old gear,
Yeah.
and then the new ones, which
different.
by the way, the distributor costs $100 more, right? It has a steel gear on it. Why? I don't know. It makes no damn difference to me in all actuality.
Yeah.
But I'm going to make a factory Ford distributor gear fit on that thing.
Yeah.
If I have to take it to a machine shop and have it cut out.
Just have it reamed out. Yeah.
Yeah,
and
that's what I'm
put it
saying.
on hot. Yeah, just put it on hot then. Get it hot, slide it on there, put the pin through it, and cool it down and call it good.
That's what I was going to do, is throw it in the oven, get it up to about 400 degrees, and then I was going to throw that distributor in the freezer and slide them on.
Yep.
So, and I'll measure the diameters. They just need to be within, it's probably a 1,000th or 2,000th press fit.
Yeah.
Yeah, so and this is what I was wondering. 38 POS Racing said Dallas would be changing distributor gears every month with a melanized gear. And I don't want to be doing that. I'd rather just
Yeah.
put this factory stuff on there. But I'm glad Dr. Art brought it up because I wasn't even thinking of it. I was going to drop that in there and go. But here's the funny thing. I went and dropped, I don't know, $700 to convert this thing over or whatever it is, $500. And now I got it running like a freaking watch, of course. Because I'm like, oh, I got this one event this weekend, so I better go out there and play with it. And now I got it running really good. I don't know. Maybe I'll just stick it on the shelf if it starts acting up. But
Then yeah.
But right now I'm really damn happy, unless it goes out and gets me 8 miles a gallon or something.
Right.
Yeah. So Danny Boyd's saying it's a steel gear for steel for roller, iron for flat tapping. So.
Yeah. I think the last week, I don't have my cheat sheet available right now, but I have remember I explained it as far as what gear goes with what one.
What's that? Oh, you got a cheat sheet for it?
Yeah.
I'm just trying to remember if it was the factory roller cam. Do you need the iron gear? I guess so. I was always told that when you're talking rollers that need those gears like that was, I want to say it was billet camshafts.
Yeah, but I think they're induction hardened billet camshaft or steel camshafts. That's something I can find out tomorrow. I'm going to go to work.
Yeah, it sounds good. I'm just gonna plan to knock the gear off an old distributor and swap it.
That's
it
the
in.
way. That's what I would do. I mean, that's exactly what I would do.
Yeah, and then there's no questions about it. So, let's see here. Okay, territory. Dallas, do you need a Rover V8 harness and ECU for? No, I would not want to use one of those if my life depended on it. I believe the wiring is Lucas Electronics wiring, and it'd be like the worst thing in the world to run. I was planning on, since it's American V8 and you can get distributors for it all day long, and I don't even worry about the coil packs. I'm very old school when it comes to old engine stuff. There's a reason why they all are still around, because it did work well. I was just going to use a distributor, and I'm going to go with a Holley harness and a Holley HP ECU. And I'm only doing that because I have one. So if I was going the cheap route, I don't know what I would do. I might eke for it. So Auto Salvage Outlaws says the best heads to run on 302 is the GT40 heads with the right cam and setup. You can get close to 400 horsepower out of a 302. That's correct.
Yep.
Yeah, that's exactly how I used to do it.
Mm-hmm. That's like the combination right there. Exactly 400 horse, boom, done.
Yeah, and it was the one that I used to do was eCam 302. Matter of fact, the 306 actually makes it a little easier. But if you do a 302 eCam, GT40P heads, the Mac used to make some long tubes for them, and then a Cobra intake or Explorer intake when that came out, and 1.7 rockers, and you were singing the 400 horsepower tune. So Dallas, but a TPS leave the POS on the shelf with the Holley intake you bought.
Oh, hey, I finally found him. Finally found Territor. Perfect. There he is. I got him. I subscribed. There you go.
Oh, the James and James show showed up here. What is happening, buddy? I missed you guys live this past week. Let's see. Okay.
Yeah, he does like sketches like this. Does that come out?
I can kind of see it. I can't tell if it's sketch. It's just not big enough.
Oh, it's it's like brake stuff. So, yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, wheel cylinder at the top. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes, Doug Narden, he knows it. Lucas, the Prince of Darkness. I don't trust the English ECU out of those Land Rovers or the Range Rovers. Let's see here.
Trying to go through to see if there's.
Oh, he's telling me buy a TPS. It wasn't the problem with buying the TPS. For some reason, when the TPS failed 2 years ago, I bought another Ford TPS. It just it would not run the same. It would not run right. I cleared the computer, the whole 9 yards. Nothing would it has no codes. It's just either rich or lean. And this way, last weekend or 2 weeks ago, I was out at Northeast Dragway for the open season shakedown. I drove out there. Everything was great. On the way home, it started getting sluggish. The truck did. And then it gassed down the oil not once, but twice. I actually stopped at a rest area, started it back up, started blowing smoke as soon as it started up. I knew the gas was oiled down. Stopped at the Walmart, got the oil changed, drove the rest of the way home, and by the time I got home, it was already smoking again. And I'm like, God dang it. And I played with the thing the whole way home. And when I got home, all I did was reset the computer, played with a couple more settings on it, started it up, and now she's happier than a clam. So I don't know. I imagine it seems like there's something that's intermittent, but it doesn't throw any codes. And I'm kind of wondering if it's here's what I really started wondering.
Yeah.
The cooling system on it works really well because it's meant for heavy duty towing. And I got a 180-degree thermostat in it, and it never gets above like probably 175. That's what I'm thinking. And it is never, matter of fact, it won't even build heat in the cab if it's cold outside. And 2 weeks ago when I drove over to the Northeast, the day that we had the race, the high was 54, but the next day the high was like 37. And I drove home in that cool air. And I think what happened is the motor was running below the temperature that it needed to maintain, like it'll go into open loop or closed loop based on temperature, right? That's what they do. It's cold startup or it's not. And I'm kind of wondering if it was cold enough that it was stuck in essentially the choke mode the entire time. But it did get horrendous gas mileage. It got like 10 miles a gallon on the way back.
Wow.
And it gassed down the oil. Okay. So I did block off half the radiator now, and it seems to be happy. I'm going to see if that's what's causing it. But
Hey, go to the next question, and I sent you a private chat. And
me? A private chat?
So that way you can post it in the comments. Now, whenever I'm stumped on cylinder head flow numbers, there's a page that I found. It's what's it called? Stan Wise, and this gets you pretty close. So as far as like flow numbers for different cylinder heads, if you click on that link that's going to be posted up here in just a second, that literally has every single cylinder head of every manufacturer, and this guy just compiled this massive PDF of just everything of cylinder head flows numbers. So that's basically what I have. Can you, on the private chat, can you see that?
I got it, and I was going to put it up. I was actually trying to catch up on the questions because we're kind of behind, but I didn't want to miss some of them. You know, like. But if you, I can post it up right now if you want me to.
Yeah, post it up right now.
Okay.
So
here is the link for that.
Yeah, Jonathan, check that out. That link that's coming up right now.
And I'll answer Ron Ward's question here real quick. Okay. Go ahead. Is he good?
Yep, we're good. Yep.
Okay. So Ron saying on the subject of Windsor Fords, there's a such thing as a heavy-duty oil pump drive shaft for these things. Got a buddy keeps twisting the stock shafts on cold morning startups. Okay, the best shaft you can use is an ARP shaft. Actually, ARP makes a drive shaft for the oil pumps and the Fords, and it's just like all the ARP bolts. They're like stupid, refined, nice pieces, right? And they're really, really strong. I don't put a stock Ford drive shaft in any of them anymore. I just use those ARP shafts every time I do a small block Ford, and that's where I would get them. 2, he's probably got a high volume pump in that thing, high volume, high pressure pump, and or I would change viscosity in the wintertime, and that's what I do. I just don't like putting that strain on the oiling system.
There's no point.
Yeah. Let's see. Territory says the Discovery Run was a Jim's harness, not Lucas, but still not perfect. But was an improvement over the Rover family of rigs. I just didn't play with them. I always heard that was the bad part about them was the electrical side of them. And God, because I mean, you got to understand, I have never touched a Rover in my life. Okay, that was just not something that I worked on, drove around, had one, smelled them, nothing. They weren't even a thought in my mind. When I found out that they had a 215 Buick in them, that was literally like 5 years ago. I found that out. And I still have never bought one because it's still attached to that crap transmission, the horrible drivetrain, and so, on the electrical side of it. And I was at the Junkyard last year, and I stumbled on the Discovery that I found that had those 4-liter. They had the 4-liter motor in it with the 215 motor, but it was 4 liters, and it had the heads without the emissions crap on them. And I thought, man, I should grab these heads. So I looked the truck over, and I'm like, what a nice vehicle. I felt terrible because I should have bought, I should be owning those things right now.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, I think what I should do is go buy one that's some ragged out. No, not even ragged out. I'll just go buy one that the motor's all clapped out or something. Mm-hmm. Since it is a 215 Buick, the neat thing is the engine is 100% dimensionally the same as a 350 Buick, except for it's taller. The 350 Buick is taller. It's got a taller deck, like an 1.5 inch deck height taller. But it will bolt right in place of that Rover motor, right in the exact same spot. And then put a Turbo 400 in there. If the Rover has a divorce transfer case, I can still maintain the four-wheel drive. Here's where I'm worried. I know if I got into four-wheel drives, I'd be so freaking broke that because I've got four-wheel drives, drag cars, hot rods, the American Hot Rod Association, and then a family and a house. Yeah. And I'm just digging a deeper and deeper hole every week.
That's why I stopped motorcycles. That's why I stopped the motorcycles.
Yeah. Let's see here. Let's catch up some here, I guess.
D150. Go to D150. Mopar 383.
Okay.
Yep.
Mopar 383 with a Schneider hydraulic roller.
Yep.
I'm going to use a bronze distributor gear. Am I wrong?
Nope. Use the bronze gear. Absolutely.
I'll tell you what, if you're racing it, a bronze gear is fine, but you change it every season. Okay? If you got anything more than racing, if you're going to try to drive it on the street, get the melanized gear that Shane was talking about at the beginning of the show.
Yeah.
That's the ticket. Those things will
It'll
last
last a little longer. You know.
Yeah, they're plastic, but they wear less fast than that bronze.
That's right. I think they're about double the life expectancy.
And the good thing about the melanized that I always like was when the little pieces fall off, they get sucked right up into the oil pump and get dumped right in the filter.
Yeah.
That's what I thought was great. That brass, that stuff comes off in such small pieces.
Yeah, it goes everywhere.
I always wondered what would happen.
It goes everywhere.
Yes.
It goes right through your filter, you know.
Well, some of them probably get stuck in the filter, but here's what I'm thinking: is that crap probably gets stuck on, like, say, the crank rotating surface, and just stays there until who knows when it falls off into your bearing, or I don't have an idea. But
Right.
I always wondered, like, because that brass would just be a mess.
Yeah. I run a 10 micron filter in mine just for that reason.
Huh. All right, so here you go. Here's your link that I put up earlier.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, use that link. Stan Weiss, it literally is just pages and pages and pages. It's got like Ford 460 CJ SVO, the Kendrick, the ported Kendrick, the ported ETA, the ported FDRE 383. I mean, there's tons of them on there, and they're within 10 CFM. Just give it that. But there's so much there, so you can really figure out what you're looking for by that.
So Fab Race Mob repeats. Chris Cox is telling me that when was the last time I changed the ECT? I changed it last year. Because I was running into this last year. They're notorious for coating over and making the EEC4 run rich. Just a thought. I think it has something to do with the 180-degree thermostat and the heavy-duty cooling the truck has. And I think what happens is it cools it off, and it never runs above 180. It's always at like 175 or something, because it just gets to the point where the thermostat opens, it lets a little bit of water pass, and bang, it's right back shut.
Yeah.
And I thought about going to a 195 just to see what it would do.
I would say go to 195. I actually better mileage on my Slant 6 with the 195 than I do with the 180.
Really?
We had thermal efficiency. The cylinder head becomes more thermal efficient.
Well, and it's an aluminum head, so it'd be even more efficient at that point. Yeah. I originally put the 180 in it because I kept having spark knock issues, and the spark knock issues, come to find out, was not from. We've talked about this before, and this is something that I've never thought of. Okay, there's generally two things that cause spark knock. All right, pre-ignition of your fuel, right, is what that really is. But there's generally only two things. One, your timing is too far advanced, or it gets too lean. The mixture gets too lean. Okay. What I was seeing was the mixture was getting rich, and it would cause spark knock because it was so rich. It was actually burning in a black soot like a diesel. And then what would happen was that black soot would be the hot spot in the cylinder.
Yeah.
Right? And it would cause it to burn. And I would have, and it didn't sound like normal detonation. It was just weird sounding. But that was all fuel related. So I'm thinking, and I kept trying to fix it by, let's cool this chamber off. Let's put some colder plugs in it. So now I got like two heat ranges colder plug, and then a 180-degree thermostat, which I probably need to go back the other direction, and it'll actually run better. But who knows? Okay, Tom Brown, how much power loss do you think there is to an ST300 trans compared to a Turbo 350? I would have to say there's none, zero, because the Turbo 350 is based off that Super Turbine 300. It's the same transmission, except for you got 2 gears. So I'm thinking it might actually be better than the Turbo 350.
As far as power absorption, but because it's only got 2 gears, the multiplication is going to be not as good.
Less, yeah.
Yeah.
The one thing that you will find out that ST300 trans will get hotter than a Turbo 350 because it's always pushing against that converter taking off.
Go to Clayton.
Which
Two
one?
down. Clayton's toolbox. Copper
This
spray.
one?
There you go.
This
Yep.
one?
Yep. Copper spray, Cometic, MLS, head gaskets, or not. Okay. When they're brand new, you don't need to. When I would take these off and reuse them, if some of that little, the black little coating, I think it's like a visqueen or something, or visqueen is what they call it. I would run these things through the dishwasher to clean them off, and then I would copper coat them only on the second, third, or fourth use. After that, then I would replace them. Comedic won't tell you that, but you can use these things 5 or 6 times and not gonna have a problem.
And that's how. Okay, this is a MLS gasket is a multi-layered steel gasket. That's what that MLS stands for.
Yep.
And it's riveted together. And it's a Japanese invention it was essentially for Hondas and Toyotas back in mid to late 70s into the 80s. But somebody figured out that you could do it on all cars. Well, most cars from U.S. auto manufacturers came with a single layer steel head gasket all the way up to like probably the 80s, I would say.
Well,
and
90s.
Was it 90s?
2000s, yeah, because a lot of those.
I'm talking about the single layer though, right? The one.
Yeah, I think the Magnum. I think the Magnum when they killed the Magnum. And what year was that?
2003.
2000. I think that still had a single
Did
gasket
it?
on
Well,
it. Yeah.
Those gaskets, and nobody will tell you this, are reusable. You can put them back on, but that's where the copper coat came from. You would get those gaskets and like, man, this one's got 70,000 miles and it looked rough, right? And let's put some copper coat on them and put it back in and see what happens. And usually they would work fine.
Yeah, I never could reuse a single gasket because they would tear when I would come off. They would actually stick to it. Yeah, they would tear. So that's why I went to the multi-layers because I was running a 1400.
I'm not talking like the single, like gaskets like a Felpro that you buy. I'm talking about the original steel shim head gaskets.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Okay, yes. No, I've used those on the Slant 6. They got a 20,000 shim gasket on it.
Yeah.
I've actually reused those, copper coated them, threw them right back on, worked just fine.
It's normal. You can reuse those. They were intended to be reused.
Yep.
But you can't get them anymore. You can't find them. Maybe there's certain applications of the cars that only came with them. And I need to do my small block 215, 300, 350 Buick video because I'm going to warp some people's minds on this because that engine is so similar throughout all the runs that the Rovers came with multi-layered steel head gaskets, right? And then torque yield head bolts. That was from the factory, but they made them. That was a run all the way up to 2000, essentially 4 when they stopped using that Rover V8. Okay. Those gaskets are almost interchangeable on the 215 and the 300s. There's slight differences and variances between each one. So I was going to do a video and show you what the differences were because it's actually pretty unique. I didn't know them until I started looking at them. Like, wow, this stuff is pretty cool. But and then you could get cheap multi-layered head gaskets for a Rover to fit a Buick. I was hoping, but they're not exactly the same. It'd be great if they did fit.
Yeah,
because they're available at the parts store and they're fairly cheap. Let's see. And Doug Narden's right. They did used to start a small fire underneath the semi trucks.
You know what?
Thin oil.
I actually saw that on the Christmas Story. He's taking coal and putting it underneath his. Yeah.
They used to do charcoals in a pan.
Yeah.
You remember the oil drain pans that were metal that were only like 2 inches tall? You fill them with charcoal. And then you light the charcoal on fire, and you let the fire burn off until the coals were white hot. You'd slide it under the oil pan, and all the heat would rise and thin the oil.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Remember, I grew up in Southern California, so all that stuff was new to me,
Yeah. Oh, I grew up in the Arctic North. Well, it's not too Arctic in Illinois, but man, I tell you that. Who was Tom Brown was talking about North Dakota? Gosh, I can't imagine that in the wintertime. I do like the serenity of if you've never lived somewhere where it's dead of winter, it can be cold. I mean, cold, right? And it'll be snowing, or it doesn't really matter. Even if it's right after a snow, you walk outside, it'll be the quietest you've ever heard in the world, right? Because that snow is blanketing everything, and it's literally pulling all the ambient sound out.
Yeah.
And when there's no wind, no breeze, and it's cold like that, the sound does not travel as well, and it is such a calming feeling.
I've noticed that here. Like, I've been up in the mountains, skiing and stuff, but it's something to like be at your house and like walk outside. Like that week we had the snow here, that were just snow. We had like a foot of snow. It was like that. We went outside. It was probably like 9 o'clock at night, and it was super quiet. Like, you could actually hear the snow hitting the
Yes,
snow.
yes, that's
You
awesome.
could hear it. Yeah, it was actually weird. I was like, whoa, that's crazy, you know? It was like a built-in quiet room. It was awesome.
Let's see. Here's Jonathan Couchy says, here's an anomaly for you. I saw a 1975 Pontiac Aster Vega with the old Chevy 153 four-cylinder appearing to be swapped into it. I would presume it was done in the 70s. Were those 2300s that bad? Yeah, that's the Vega 2300. That's the aluminum block.
Yeah.
And here's the weird thing: aluminum sleeves, non-cast iron sleeves. There was an aluminum block with like a coating, silicone coating or something on them, and they were terrible. And it really wasn't the cylinder wall like you think it would be. I think I thought was the head gasket, the expansion and contraction of the head, because I think the head was cast iron.
Cast iron, yeah. So
And
basically, yeah.
The block was the one moving, and it would split the gasket, and they'd pour water in the cylinder.
That's exactly what it was doing. Yeah, it's got had the cast iron head, so that all the heat's in the head, so it would just get hotter and hotter and hotter. When the block would cool down, it was actually after it stopped running, and it would just go. That's when the problem happened. Yeah.
Yeah. If you look at the later Vegas, I want to say it was like, when was the last of the Vegas? 76, 75, somewhere around there. The last of the Vegas, the ad from General Motors said like guaranteed 70,000 mile bumper to bumper coverage on the car, right? And because they had got that engine figured out, but people were so scared of them, nobody was buying them. That's the only thing that killed the Vega was that engine. And it was an engineering marvel at the time, but nobody, because you're dealing with dissimilar metals, no one was thinking about different in expansion and contraction rates. And you're talking like, it's easy to poke fun at them now and point at them and laugh, but when you're the guy on the cutting edge and you're the one making this new technology, this is the kind of shit that you got to figure out that you learn.
Yeah, shit happens. And sometimes you're trying to go fast to market with stuff, and you haven't been able to test all the parameters. You know, they're like, hey, we made a block and it ran fine, so let's go to market with it.
Well, and if you remember how the whole Vega story is interesting all by itself. People may not be familiar with the Vega story, but originally that engine, that 2300 Turdmobile motor, was not supposed to be in there. That was supposed to be a Wankel, if you remember that. That was supposed to be a Wankel rotary.
Oh,
and
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and General Motors could not make that work without oil consumption. They sold that to Mazda.
That's right. I remember that now. Yes, that is correct. Yep, I remember that.
Yeah, so that engine had probably half the development time that it probably needed. And what they should have done is they should have reached in their mixed bag of tricks and pulled out that Tempest Trophy 4 and the half a 389 Pontiac and just stuffed it in that Vega just to get her down the road. Because they knew it worked and they had parts and all the casting was the same as the, let's see, whatever Pontiac they were using at the time, 400. The 400 would have been available. So, all right. Craig Chitto.
Behind again.
Yeah, I'm slow on today, I guess. Craig Chitto, Shane, I'll be emailing you shortly. I just got the last small engine cam in.
Perfect. Now just remember, Slant Daily Garage Yahoo. I'm working on that. I'm way behind. I've just had things going on.
Okay, so Doug Narden says the Vega aluminum engines were junk.
Yeah.
Clayton's Toolbox. Isn't a melanized gear an iron gear with a melanized coating? Oh, it could be. I thought it was plastic.
No, it's yeah. I'll send you a link so people can read about it. Moving on to the next one. All right. That way. Yeah.
Let's see. Oh, okay. The first responder garage is saying the composite is plastic and the melanized used chemical for treatment.
Here, Comcams has got a great description of it.
Here we go. Danny Boyd says Vega engines suck. Aluminum block iron head, no good. Some Asters came with a 2.5 iron door, though. Knew a guy who swapped in one into a Vega notch. A lot of them came with a lot of 215 Buicks found their home again in this car because the bodies fell apart in that 61 to 63 special, and they'd end up in these in the Vegas. Let's see.
Yeah, I'm gonna send you this. This has got a good.
Oh, wow. Territory saying, down, let's get a 2002 Range Rover P38, the modern Range Rover, and make sure it's a 4.6 liter. Personally, that's the best engine you can use out of the Rover family. I wonder if the heads on it are better. Oh, well, I'm definitely not using the block from a Rover. Okay. See, and that's what I have on my race engine, is that Cam's graphite gear.
Yeah.
Oh, let's see. Man, I'm trying to catch up and okay, mostly on parts. Ron is saying, I've seen spark knock due to excessive carbon buildup in the combustion chamber and top of piston too. And that's probably what's going on with my old Ford. I don't know.
All right. This link I'm sending over right now, this one.
Man, I'm 10 minutes behind.
Yeah. This last one I just put up, that's the one you want to put up there for the melanize. It basically describes, how the salt bath nitriding process is, and so on and so forth for the gear. It's something I just don't want to get into. It's really long-winded, but yeah.
Okay. Let's see if I can catch up here. Jonathan Couchy says, here in Minnesota we sometimes have fluctuations from 30 degrees Fahrenheit to negative 20 Fahrenheit in one day. Not very often, only once a couple of years, but the next morning only sounds as trees literally exploding by freezing sap.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
Let's see. Oh, I must have went way back there. Okay.
Oh yeah, I can even find
Jason
you.
Fitch says that they paid a metric ton or a shit ton on the Winkle project. Yeah, the 215 Buick was a big swap into those Vegas when the engines expired early. You didn't have to change the springs or anything on them. Okay.
Where are you?
I'm right here at 821, which we just put up your link.
Okay, good. Yep. That's the link you guys want to read right there. That basically explains everything. It explains a melanized gear, how it's made, and the process of the salt bath nitriding, and how it all works. So, and basically what it does and what it fits. So there you go.
Huh. Well, so Dragpack Merc says, my uncle bought a 71 Vega new. Engine was replaced under warranty with iron liners. Ran many years trouble-free after that. And I think that's all they needed was to fix those, was the iron sleeves in there.
Yeah. So that way it would keep it from shifting when it got cooled down,
Wow. Tom Brown saying, there's a wreck yard near me that used to have a 70 Vega wagon with a factory Cosworth twin cam in it.
Wow.
That had to be rare as hen's teeth, man.
Right?
It did. That's not one that you would see on a daily basis. There was one last year at the No Name Nationals for sale. Did you see the black and gold one, Shane?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, I saw it. Yeah.
They brought it there for the sole purpose of trying to flip it at the No Name Nationals. And that car, it had 27,000 miles on it, original miles.
Did it drive there, or was it?
It was trailered. Yeah, it was trailered. But they had something else, too. There was another car with them that was the same way. Let's see. Fab Race Mod Repeat says, change that graphite cam gear before the 600th pass. No problem. I don't know.
Do it every year.
Yeah, I think I am going to have to drag this T-Bird out this year, but I think I'm just going to drag it out and turn it into a pile of cash and send it on its way.
Dude, if you bring that car out, I will change my car back to a 3-speed NA.
Why?
Well, because I want to do another match race, me and you, going down the track.
I don't know if I have time to do all that stuff. I just want to get it running, and it's sat in my garage for 5 years now, and done nothing. I'm gonna have to do something with it.
I'm gonna make mine go really fast.
Well, keep doing that, dude.
Yeah.
I'm gonna just get my '63 Buick Special done and get caught up on life. Okay, so. Let's see, Territory, Dallas Rover V8 heads that will fit the Buick V8 can be found up to Range Rover 2002 and Discovery 2004. All those heads are identical. Some emission ports will have to be plugged on the later heads. I'm wondering if the valves are different sizes or the chambers are different, or because see that thing went from a 4-liter to a 4.6 liter, and I'm wondering if they had to change the chamber because I noticed it's awfully small on the 4-liter one. It's like 27 cc. I got a video coming up. I got to sit down and compare them all, but I need to get this other crap off my plate first so I can get to this project that I was wanting to do, and that's where it's going to cover all these videos.
Yeah.
But, yeah. Let's see. Okay, so Danny Boyd says another buddy in high school, his neighbor took a 5-speed out of a Monza and put it in his overhead cam 67 to 68 Firebird and placed it at 3-speed Saginaw. That's another engine I always wanted to get, was one of those overhead cam Pontiac 6s. Mm-hmm. And I had the opportunity to buy one not too long ago. Somebody had one up on Marketplace, had a video of the damn thing running, had everything was factory complete running engine, minus it was missing the original quadrijet carburetor, which I was like, God, get ready to really try to find one of those. That's going to be hard to find, because to find one that actually went on that car, you're going to have to make something work. And but I want to say it was like $1,000 for that whole running motor, but what do I put it in?
Yeah,
that's the problem. Like,
make a blender out of it. Show your friends.
Just sell it. Just sell it once. Just rebuild it, tear it apart, show the world what it looked like inside of a overhead cam Pontiac 6.
Yeah.
And then, I guess put it back together, put it on the start stand, and then sell it. Let's see. Oh, man. All right. Well, it's starting to slow down, surprisingly. And I've caught up. I did that by just skipping all your questions. So
if
maybe it's time to go back and just pick one.
Yeah. Just throw it back up there. We're caught up now.
Cherry pick one. Let's see. Danny Boyd says, Vegas, Kings of Rust, we called them in high school. So here's an interesting thing. All the GM cars that were essentially the economy cars were always the Kings of Rust. Mm-hmm. The 61 to 63 Buick Special was in that category, and why I have such a hard time finding parts is they rusted out. And luckily I got a whole car out of Southwest Texas, but the downside is I can't find any parts to replace anything with. So it's a catch-22. Let's see. Buff Del Campo says, I had a couple of Vegas. The cars were great, but I always carried a case of oil in the trunk. Every fill-up would also use 2 quarts of oil.
Wow.
Man.
Yeah, when I got that
aluminum cylinder wall in action there.
Yeah, when I got my very first muscle car, let's call it, and it didn't run very well. And remember the Castrol GTX of 2050? Remember that?
Yeah.
The Castrol GTX, yeah. They had it on sale for like $9 a case, whatever it was. I would just keep 2 cases in the back of the car, and literally every time I filled it with gas, I would have to put 2 or 3 quarts in it, the exact same way. Yeah, just burned it up.
My first car was 81 Buick Regal. I got it for $300 in the local penny saver trader, or penny saver paper. And I had a blown up V6 Buick in it. And so my dad's like, "Hey, I'm gonna show you how to fix this, son. We're gonna go to the junkyard. We'll get you an engine this weekend, right?" So I'm like, "All right, we'll go get an engine." So we go to the junkyard, and it's like, oh, here's a Buick V6, and it's got a hole in the block, and here's a Buick V6, and it's got 180,000 miles on it, and here's another Buick V6. And I'm looking at all these, and I'm just like, they all have the same thing in common. They're all high mileage or just freaking ragged out. Mm-hmm. And my old man, being my old man, he's like, hey, here's a 350 Buick in I want to say it was a 74 LeSabre, right? 2-barrel. 350 Buick. I looked at the odometer, and this is back when they actually had mechanical numbers, right? So you could read them as the car's just sitting there.
Yeah.
And it's like 73,000 miles, and he's like, oh, it's just getting broken in. Well, he's also the same guy that had a rule of thumb: you don't touch a car unless it's under 60,000. Right.
Yeah, right.
So here I am buying the $73,000 or 73,000 mile motor, and I'm about ready to put it in my car to drive every day, and yeah, it started up and ran. God, was it like the lifters clattered, all kind. So, you take the motor out, and you know how to especially SoCal, you guys, they're the ones that like help me perfect this thing. With this was the Mexican guys that would come down there to the SoCal junkyards and pull the motor, and it wasn't how fast they got it. It was how you found out if the motor was good or not. One, you pull the radiator cap off, okay, and you look at how much crap is built up on the bottom of the radiator cap. Is it oily? If it's oily, it's probably got oil mixture in the oil pan. Right?
It's no good. Yeah.
Yeah. But look at it. If it's nice and clean and the antifreeze is nice and clean, go to step 2. Step 2 is pull the dipstick, right? Look at the oil. You get a white rag and you wipe it off with a white rag. And then you look through that mess that the oil stain left on the rag, and you'd see if there's any metal flakes in it, if it smelled like gas, if the oil, if it's within its 3,000 to 4,000 mile oil change. Next thing you do is you pull a plug, right? And you pull the plug that's furthest from the radiator, right? Because if it ever got hot, that's generally where the problems are going to be at. It's furthest from the radiator. Okay, so anyway, back to the Regal story. This motor, we changed the motor oil out because it's a fresh motor. It's going in the car, right? 73,000 miles. I started up. It was clattering like you would not believe. It needed like a set of lifters, or it was something. I mean, it wasn't catastrophic with the bottom end. It was something in the top end, right?
Yeah.
And the lifters were all collapsed and terrible. And really, probably what it was it didn't have oil changes on the regular, so and they used crap oil. And so my old man looks at me. He says, "All right, crawl up under there, drain that oil back out, right? And then we'll change the oil in my truck. You pour that oil in my truck." And then we'll take the old oil out of my truck and we'll pour that in the motor, right? And I'm like, really? He's like, yeah, trust me on this. Okay. So we poured that used motor oil back in and it didn't clatter at all. It did not clatter. It cured it from having collapsed lifters. And I had never seen anything like that to this day.
Yeah.
Because you can take one with collapsed lifters and go put thicker motor oil in and it's still collapsed. Right? You put thinner motor oil in, it still collapsed. But used motor oil stopped it from clattering. And I don't know what caused that. I really have no idea. Maybe the carbon in the oil?
Could be. I don't know. That's a new one for me. Don't know.
Yeah, but it was totally contradictory to anything I've ever ever even seen.
Hey, go down to Tom Brown. He's got one at 828.
Oh, he's got one there. Okay. Dallas, I wonder if you get a hold of Nick's Garage channel on YouTube, if they would do the dyno runs for your engines. I know they're in Canada, but it could be an option. I was actually considering that, to tell you the truth, when I was looking for a dyno shop. See, this is where my whole winter full of being depressed and life sucks started for me. Was I hate saying something and I can't deliver on it.
Yeah.
All right, and it actually eats me up personally. It eats me up to the point to where I get bummed out and depressed.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happened with this one. Was the 300, not the what if 300. That was something that was going to take a while, right? And Shane is working on the cam, and it's just whenever he has time. It's not like I'm trying to cram it down his throat. So, and I'm not in a hurry on that one at all, right? I still got to make an intake manifold and all that. But it was the 300 Buick that was supposed to be the dyno mule, and the shop that was supposed to dyno my super stock motor drug me along all the way till January, to the point where this engine was sitting in the back of my truck the second week of November. It sat back there all winter. I had to go and pump straight antifreeze through the damn thing twice because it got down cold enough that I got worried that it was going to freeze the block. It's got nothing. It's got, the block has been filled, so it's like very little water passage in it, and it's all in the heads. And if I ruin the heads, that's the thing I can't afford to replace.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, man, I was bending over backwards trying to keep that thing from freezing up. And I was mad at this shop that dropped the ball on me. And then I had ordered a flywheel for that 300 Buick, and it came back, fits a Chevrolet, right? But it says it fits a 300 Buick on Rock Auto, and when you go buy one, that's the part number they give you for them, and it didn't fit them, right? And the TA Performance had a flywheel. I want to say they're $394 or $324 or something. I just haven't had the extra cash to buy one. Not that pricey. and I got this 455 Buick on my platter and this 215 Buick on my platter, and it just kind of fell off to the side. I will get back to it, and I actually have a good plan. Okay, there's the Butler Performance is right here by. It's in between me and Shane's house. Right. It's like it's in a small town, Etheridge, I think.
I looked it up.
Lawrenceburg, Tennessee.
Yeah.
And it's about halfway between me and Shane. And they run Pontiacs. That's all they do is Pontiacs. And they have their own dyno just because of this bullshit of the shops don't want to set up their dyno to fit your engine when they normally do small block Chevrolets or small block Ford or small block Mopar, or big block Chevrolet. It's just something that's uncommon. They got to move parts around and change things and motor mounts and cross members and the whole 9 yards, and they don't want to do it. They're lazy about it. And they're not going to do it for the one guy that comes in with the one oddball engine. They'd rather just pass you off to somebody else. And I called 4 or 5 different places, and it was actually almost the same thing every time. And I'm kind of wondering if I can call Butler. And if there's anyone that has any empathy for me on this, it's going to be Butler. Because they're in the same boat.
Yeah.
And I'd like to see if we can get the 300 mule there, because I can literally I'll bet you I could do an entire year off of just swapping heads and cams and intakes with factory stuff on the 300, because there's so many pieces and parts that nobody's screwed with. And I really want to try them.
You just thought about getting one your own, like a used one or something?
Well, I'll tell you what I did think of. There's a place just south of me in McMinnville, Tennessee, and they have a dyno, and it's an engine rebuilder shop, and they got into doing engine rebuilders for diesels around the country, and they just put that dyno on the back burner. They still have it, but they just put it on the back burner. And I thought about leasing it for a month.
Yeah.
Right? Just lease the whole damn dyno for a month, and I can do whatever the hell I want to do then. Right?
14-hour days.
Well, I think it would be cool.
Yeah.
If I leased it for a month and then just did head cam and intake swaps on a 300 and just leave it on the stand, everything else hooked up, man, it would be cool. I don't know. Maybe I'll think about it. I don't know how much that would cost to lease it for a month. But it's just sitting there. They don't use it. That's what he told me. So I thought about just putting some cash in his pocket. Michael Schmidt, POR 15 or other products to seal in rust like on floors of late 40s and early 50s cars. I see some water-based products on Facebook that look interesting. I'm inexperienced with rust in California. Oh man, POR 15 that's exactly what it was designed for. That's the name, Paint Over Rust 15.
Yeah.
Right?
I was just going to say that's exactly what it stands for.
Yeah. What I have found is, coming from the Midwest, all of our shit used to vaporize, right? And what we did, this might sound kind of hackery, but if you think about it, in the 90s, no one made floor pan replacements for stuff, okay? Yeah. And if they did, they were really expensive. Or you'd have to find a really nice shaped car and cut it up to put it in your whatever you had. There was a couple of ways to go about this. One was epoxy, right? You fiberglass epoxy this thing, right? Fiberglass mat it, fill it in, and then paint over it with some POR 15, and then hopefully you keep what you have. The other way was, and this may sound even more hackery and booger-eating redneck, the big thing of JB Weld that you used to be able to get, you use the JB Weld to fill the big holes. And what it does is it seals that epoxy to where it can't get any more oxygen. That will stop the oxidization of the metal. And then you paint over that with POR 15. And it'll save it for a few years. And that JB Weld is way stronger than that floor pan. It's just not, it doesn't like heat, right? So you don't want to do this around like your exhaust, Well, actually, probably around the exhaust is fine.
Yeah.
It's just
on it. Yeah.
Yeah, or if it ever catches on fire, you need to look at that stuff.
Yeah, bad.
And then the big thing was, like, if you had a big hole like the size of a quarter, you couldn't put JB Weld over that hole, right? But you could put JB Weld over that hole with some plastic and then another coat of JB Weld on it. And there's some hackery ways to do it. But POR15 is where you start.
Sorcery? We should call that sorcery? Would that
It could
like
be.
wizard?
It could be
Yeah,
metal sorcery.
So that can be in our booth, right?
Just remember that there's a big difference between floor pans and stuff you would do exterior of the car, because the exterior you're wanting to put paint on, you want it to look nice. No one's ever going to see the floor pan.
No, 'cause
ever.
Carpet.
Yes, and all it's got to do is hold you on the inside. That's literally it.
And keep it dry. That's it.
Yeah. So, let's see. Let's see. Barrow's Garage says, in high school, I had a Mustang 2 4-cylinder automatic, 13-inch slot mags. I hated that car, but it ran. Sold it for $50. Now I wish I still had it. I don't doubt it, man. That's
Right?
Yeah, those days of the Mustang 2 and the Pinot getting freaking killer gas mileage while everybody was sucking. Yeah, Coco's right when he did that. He was so far ahead of the curve that it sucked. They should have probably called it something else. I think so. Should have never called it a Mustang, just like this Mustang Mach-E.
So funny. $50. I just laugh at the prices because I remember those days, buying a Volkswagen for, $100 just to drive for the weekend. That's all we did.
Oh, man. Oh, and then just go trash the car?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
We just
yeah.
take it out. Or we'd get a giveaway car. Like that was great. You go to like a garage sale and they're like, for sale. Well, it doesn't run. Well, we know how to make things run. And we would just end up getting it home and getting it running. And then we'd go out to the fields and Garden Road there and we'd make a track and just terrorize. Oh,
Yeah,
awesome.
I think I told you about Payday Friday, right? Did I ever tell you that? But me and one of my buddies did when I was a young kid, the Payday Friday. So Payday Friday, when you used to get paid on Friday, right?
Yeah.
So you would go buy some beater car, and we would have a race. We'd say, all right, everybody, there's like 6 of us. We hang out at this one place, this guy's shop. And we're going to have a race on Payday Friday. And it's like, bring something on Friday. So you'd run around, you'd find something that hopefully it was running, because you needed something that ran. But if it didn't run, you'd buy it ahead of time and swap a motor in it or something. But it was Payday Friday, and you didn't really want to spend more than $200-300 on this thing. Mm-hmm. So you'd show up in your car, and what you do is in the farmlands of Illinois, all the roads are essentially every mile, and they're all square. They're straight and square.
Okay.
It's set up in like a grid style, and there's no real contour to the land, the terrain. It's flat.
It's just flat. Yeah.
Right. And in between the fields, to keep the fields from flooding, because everything's square, they have what they call a waterway. It's a giant ditch that's dug in there that drains those fields and leads to a creek or a river. Well, when it doesn't rain, those things are just grass, I don't know, roads, I guess. And they're probably like, they're a good couple 100 feet wide. And the only downside isn't there'll be a hidden culvert in there somewhere where it drains water from one field to the next. And so you'd go out there on Payday Friday and you'd take your beater, let's say 85 LTD wagon, and you go out and your buddy would have a 1972 Ford truck that he bought, and it'd have a FE that he was going to put in his next project or whatever. And it would continue on like that. Somebody would show up with a Trans Am that was rusted out and clapped out, and this the leaf spring pushing up through the floor pan, and we would hammer down on this race till the last man was standing. Right, last car running. That's how hard you ran it.
That's the winner.
Running. Yeah, it didn't go for laps or miles or anything like that. It was the last man standing, because you would hit one of those culverts at 40 miles an hour, and you would literally go 20 feet up in the air, and it would come down and would shove the front suspension right through the inside of the car.
No wonder you guys got back problems.
Dude, I'm gonna tell you, it was the most fun I ever had in my life. You just absolutely beat the crap out of these things. But that was Payday Friday. We used to do it like once a month.
Yeah, it's funny because we did the same thing, but it was in the desert, and we called those places washes. Is what we called
really?
Yeah. So you would have these washes, And you would go down there like, if you got out there during the summertime, you wait till the sun goes down to cool down a little bit. It's still hot, but it's cool down. But the washes were dead smooth because no one's been out there.
Right, and the water smooths them out.
Yeah, and we would just hammer down. So it's just endless miles of just, slightly weaving back and forth through these washes. Did the same thing, just different thing. So, but same.
Same plan, I guess.
Yeah.
See, and that's where I thought if you were to do a racing series that was fun to watch on TV, that would be it. That would be it.
To the death. You know what I mean?
Yeah, last man standing. Let's see.
They used to have a TV series like that where they would someone would have to build a car, then he would have to basically do like 10 drag race passes in a row. I forget what it called, but it was actually kind of like a pilot deal. It only lasted for like one season, but that was actually pretty cool because the guy would have to like tell you, oh, now you need to do like a quarter-mile burnout. Then you come back over, you got to do a 30-second burnout, and then get up on the stall, whatever, and then go down the track. So it was like survival or something like that. I can't remember the name of it, but someone in the chats will come up with it. But it was an awesome show. It was on Speed TV.
Oh, dude, I love that channel. Speed Channel?
Yeah, Speed Channel, yeah.
When that thing was around, that was such a great channel. I got cable just because of that channel. Yeah. And then when they got rid of it, I got rid of cable. I just, I don't understand why that thing got bought out and shut down. I really don't. I think what it was it was hurting somebody's ratings.
Yeah.
The coolest thing when it was called Speed Vision.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
oh, yeah.
That was like late 90s, early 2000s. Mm-hmm. They used to run all these old races on there, old NASCAR races from like 1965.
Yeah, I remember that,
televised races.
I love
it. It was like, wow, and they'd have a drag race at Lions Dragway that was aired on their local like ABC channel.
Yeah.
There was a Bonneville Salt Flat record trials. And it's like, why do they not show this stuff anymore? That nobody from people have died, but this is still something that's relevant to the newer generation.
Yeah, I watched one of those videos of drag racing from like Lions or whatever from back in the late 60s, early 70s, and you would see these long line of cars, and everybody in line is doing dry hops as they're moving forward. You know what I mean? Like you would see like 15 cars in a row getting ready to come to the line, but as they move forward,
they would be right behind each other in the lanes.
Exactly, right behind each other doing dry hops. And I'm like, dude, if you did that nowadays, people would just
they'd throw you out of the track, dude. They would. And I don't see why. Like, as long as you're not running into each other, I think that was part of the buildup, and that's what people don't really realize is the mechanics or the feng shui of a drag race, right? Okay, if you look at the old 60s stuff, the way it was, it works just like a story, okay? Mm-hmm. You establish the story by seeing the two cars that are going to race. You hear the two cars start up, and now it intrigues you, okay? Mm-hmm. Ooh, wow, that one sounds a lot healthier than this one, right? I'm going to take that guy over there, right? Well, then they start him up, and the old 60s stuff, they would do burnouts back there in the staging lanes too. Burnouts, dry hops, right? Yeah. And then they would pull it up to the line, and nobody did a burnout on the line. You didn't do a burnout there. And it really was just like, this was before burnouts. Like, in reality, if you think about it, like a lot of people may not know this, the burnout actually didn't happen until like, I guess the first one that's supposed to have said that was the one that started the burnouts was, you had the Chi-Town Hustler, okay? The Chi-Town Hustler funny car. Mm-hmm. And back then, showmanship counted for almost as much as you winning the race.
Yeah.
And Pat Minnick was the driver of the Chi-Town Hustler, right? And the crew chief was Austin Coyle, and I mean it was the hot team at the time. But back then was all match racing, and what they did is a Top Fuel funny car, regardless of what generation, has more than enough power to absolutely blow the tires clean off of it in any situation. Okay. Yeah. And that's what he did is he rolled right up through there to the line and just hammered down. And it did a freaking burnout at like 30 miles an hour halfway down the track. Well, he just sold the race, regardless if he won. He sold the race as the winner right there. Okay?
Yeah.
Because nobody had ever done that before.
Yeah, he got a standing ovation. Remember that?
Yeah. And so that's where the burnout actually started. And then they found out it was better for the cars because they ran faster after you did that. Mm-hmm. And that's when it became commonplace. What everybody, even the stock eliminators, and that was the thing, was all of it back then was a no prep race, and all of it back then had no burnouts. So you think your no prep turbocharged 5.3 shitbox is fun to watch? Go out there and try to get it done with a car that hasn't done a burnout on a tire that's virtually a Uniroyal Tiger Paw, and then has no prep on the surface whatsoever.
Yeah.
Right?
That's ultimate no prep racing.
That's where the fun really, really was at. And it was not always won or lost with having the quickest car. It was won or lost who could get down the track and make it happen with the quickest car.
Yeah.
And that's where it was. So as I was saying, the feng shui of it, all of that would happen, and it would build up to the point where you would sidestep the clutch at $7,000 or $8,000 on the starting line. Okay. And that is the climax. That's the release. And the reason why I say that is, if you look at today's drag racing and you go, let's go to like super gas class 990, or even super street, 1090s, or what is super comp 890. Those classes are so backwards because they've put it to where the last 10 feet of the race is what really matters. Well, where's the stands?
Yeah. Exactly.
The stands are at the other end of the track where it started, because that's where, right? They've ruined the feng shui of the of the drag race by doing that. No one's at the stripe. No one's there looking at see. Oh, this guy won by 2 inches. No one cares. They look at the lights for that. Yeah. They wanted to see the car come out and stand on the bumper. That's why when they didn't stand on the bumper and they came off the line super gas, people got up and left. They ruined the whole buildup of the drag race at that point. But
I agree. Everything you said, I agree with that, because I remember watching that when he did the burnout, and it was like such a big thing. Holy man, he just did a burnout, half track burnout. Yeah, it was a big deal.
Yeah, I tell you, man, like when I run that one super, I don't know if I ever told you that, I ran that one super gas race up at Fontana.
Oh yeah,
right?
No, you've mentioned it a few times on here. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, the coolest part was I was the third pair back. And the class has, we're just coming up, and I'm watching everybody leave, and I'm like, man, this class must suck. Everybody must hate this class, right? Because everybody's leaving. And when I got up there, I just did my normal burnout, just like everybody else, pulled it up to the line. But you know how my car ran. It used to do those big crazy wheelies when I freaking first started racing it out there in Southern California. And man, I let that thing eat, and it did its normal 2.5, 3 foot wheelie in first gear, and then as the front end's coming down and I pulled into the second gear, I look over and there's these kids on the fence line just cheering, right? Yeah. They're like, hell yeah, what the hell is going on with this class? Look at this guy. Yeah. And I make one pass, pull it in and down at the end of I didn't even run 990. This was just for time runs, and this was like the second round of time runs, and it ran like a 10:04. Yeah. And I pulled in at my trailer. There was a freaking crowd around the car. Like, man, I ain't never seen a super gas car run like this before. Why the hell is yours not falling on its face like everybody else? And I'm like, man,
that's why I'm here. That's what I'm doing.
I'm trying to shake it up, and I don't have any of that stuff. And that's when it got to be like terrible, because they were pulling out rule books and hating on me, and I was like, but dude, look at it. There's guys cheering as everyone else is leaving. But we went up for the next round of time runs, and everybody was there to watch me do big wheelies, and that was it. They didn't leave.
The way the class was designed to be. That's what the class was for.
Exactly, and that's what I liked about it. Was the quintessential sportsman, essentially bracket class. Because see, there's only one difference between index racing and bracket racing. The one difference is this: in bracket racing, you put your time on the window. In index racing, someone else puts your time on the window.
That's right.
That's it.
And it's a true I shouldn't use instant green, but it's a true light. It's a pro tree light.
Yeah. It's closer to real drag racing than most sportsman classes. But so Dust Devil Garage says there needs to be more showmanship in drag racing. I don't know if you saw that. If you're a big Facebook fan, this week somebody posted a picture of the sign that I had out at the No Name Nationals that said burnouts through the lights, wheelies, and or wheel stands and dry hops are encouraged. Make the fans happy, right?
Yeah, you are the show.
Right. And someone took a picture of that and put that on the web. And all of a sudden, the AHRA page on Facebook absolutely blew up. Okay. Normally I get like 1.5K views per day on a picture or 2,000 views. This one was 1.5 million views in just under a couple of hours. And I'm like, holy crap. And the next thing you know, I got 85 people trying to join the AHRA Facebook page within the matter of seconds. And I think, that stuff goes a long way. The showmanship is fun. There's nothing wrong with showmanship. Now, if you do all the showmanship and you blow your junk up, yeah, there's a problem because you just took all day to get the thing to the line and then you blew it up, right? It does look really bad.
but did you have fun doing it though? That's the whole thing.
Well, and that's the thing that we're losing is if it's not about the fun, why are you doing it?
Yeah, and that's the whole thing that I'm going to do with this car, this Blue Dart that I'm working on. I just want to go and have fun with it again. Like I remember that the NA was fun, but there's just nothing for it here. So I want to have fun with it, going and do the No Name Nationals. I mean,
speaking of that, somebody had a question about No Name Nationals. Okay, someone was asking. I want to say it was Michael Schmidt asked me, and I glanced over it, and I was going to ask it. There it is. Okay. No Name Nationals. Is there a bracket race so soul cars can be competitive? Yes, there's a bracket class. Last year's winner was just Mopar Joe. And he has a bounty on his head this year, and it just keeps getting bigger every week.
Is it getting bigger? Who else is donating?
Fab Race Mod Repeat. Chris Cox from Speed Oasis threw some money in on it.
Ooh, awesome.
I want to say it's like that thing is up to like $400.
You know what they need to do is do exactly what I'm doing. Is that put the money up, regardless if Joe wins or Joe gets taken out. So if Joe wins, he gets that money, or whoever takes him out gets that money. That's what I'm doing. Is I'm giving $200 to Joe if he wins.
So Tom Brown said the old car and track test drives with Bud Lindemann on Speed Vision were the absolute best.
Yes, I remember that. That was awesome.
The show that I really liked was a TV show called American Muscle Car. And it was put on, I think like the guys from Year One did it maybe or something.
Yep.
And I think they kind of jumped the shark in the last season because they started running out of muscle cars. There's only so many muscle cars, right? Yeah. When you start doing 52 Oldsmobile Dynamic 88, you're almost at the bottom of the barrel. Okay, there's not many left.
Right.
AMC Hornet, there's not much left after that, right? That's kind of how that show was, and it was like it was fantastic for the first couple of years. Fantastic, because they threw stats out there that people had not even thought about or heard of since the invention of that car. Like they had an entire episode dedicated to super stock Dodges, right? An entire episode.
I remember that, yeah.
Do you? You've seen the show then, right?
Oh, yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about. I love that show.
Yeah. It had the coolest guitar riff when it was like, when the show came on. And I used to freaking live for that show. And when they canceled Speed Vision, I bought all of those on, like, say, Amazon, I think. All the DVDs. It has every single episode on DVD. I bought the whole entire set because it was the reason why I had cable. And I loved that show. But there was a lot of stuff that came on that Speed Vision channel, and it was called Speed Vision first, and then it became Speed Channel, right? But there was a lot of shows on there that were so cool. Okay, Buff Del Campo said, he said, I have one of those dumb questions because it's my first turbo engine. It's a 225 Slant. How much ring gap?
How much boost?
Yeah, that's the question, Buff. How much boost? If you're going to run anything more with that small bore, man, you don't have to have a gonzo amount of gap. But I would. Okay, so if you're going to run 14 pounds or less with that small bore, I bet you probably need 22 to 24 thousandths ring gap.
That's exactly what I was going to say. 22 to 24. Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. And I bet that's probably right because you're probably not going to go anything over 14 pounds, I'm assuming. Now, if you do, take it up to 26 and you should be fine. Whoa. that's right, is it?
No, 6,000 is probably what he was talking about.
I'm trying to think of how he got that. It probably is 6,000s, but that's still.
It's still a lot. I was going.
That's really small. No, it's small because if you think about it, that's 3.5-inch bore, right? So you'd be at 18, 20,000. Oh yeah, you might be right.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, there he is. He's saying or 6,000. Yeah, 6,000s. Okay.
Yeah, because I would put you at about 20,000s. But the only reason why I would go a little bit more for the Slant is just because of how your piston speed that you're going to have on that thing, because of how long that stroke is. Yeah, we got another super chat.
I see that.
Awesome.
Michael Schmidt says,
"Thanks, man.
Good times." Well, I appreciate that. This is how we keep the lights on around here, and I promise.
Oh, I gotta go. John Wilburn. John Wilburn, that is a twofer. We got 2 super chats. That's a twofer. John Wilburn.
Oh man, we're almost there to having our booth at PRI for the
right. Have our wizard,
our wizardry booth. Yeah.
Everything that we get for the super chats goes right towards the wizardry booth that we're gonna have. For
yeah, this year we're going to be able to hire a guy that kind of looks like Uncle Tony, but he's not. Dishing out some serious wizardry.
That's gonna be funny.
Let's see the classic footage of. Oh yeah, they did show that classic footage of the Grumpy's power shift in his '68 Camaro. That's in that muscle car show.
I remember there was also a video on that one too where he's like, "Oh, he's gonna go get some more rosin." Remember, he was out there throwing more rosin. He was actually the one. He got out of his car, grabbed some rosin, throw it back on the track, gets back in his car. You know, he's not putting any belts on. He just gets back in there and starts.
Well, and he did I want to say he did 3 burnouts.
Yeah.
Right?
I remember that. Yeah.
Because it had to be about 74. The reason why I say that is, okay, in the early 70s, and I know we're past time now, we got to get going, but the Grump got his Vega stolen. I think it was his Vega or Monza. Stolen at St. Louis at an AHRA event. I think that's what it was. I'm pretty sure. And the picture of him did you ever see where he was wearing those pants that were red that had all of the car logos on, like STP and Mr. Gasket, and all that was like on a pair of pants. Mm-hmm. And that's, I believe, what he was wearing when he was throwing the rosin on the track. So it had to be around the same time frame.
Yeah, it's hard to see in that picture because the camera's so far away. But yeah, I think it's right around there.
Oh no, this was a video that I saw.
Yeah, but I'm saying the camera that was actually taking the pictures, watching the video. Oh,
yeah, it was like at the end of the stands, focused in on him, right?
Yeah, on the very top of the stands coming down,
Yeah.
He was actually racing Dick Landy, I think, in that one, wasn't he? Or is it Sox and
I
Martin?
bet you can find that clip on YouTube. I bet you can.
Oh, that's actually where I've seen it, yeah.
Oh, all right, yeah. That was on that muscle car show, too.
Mm-hmm.
But, hey, so that's it. We're out here. We're into time. I'm sorry. I ran late tonight on, well, I'm not sorry I ran late. I'm sorry I was falling behind on all the chats. So if we didn't get to your question, just email something over to Shane at slantdailygarage@yahoo.com.
Once again, slantdailygarage@yahoo.com. And I promise you, I'm going to be getting to those this next week. I am. I've been behind. I've had some personal things going on, and I just needed a little break, just like Dallas. I just took a little break for a little bit. So, yeah. We'll get to them.
Oh, man, if I can ever find my groove and get back into it, I will get back into it, and I'll hit it hard. But I got a 455 we're going to be putting on start stand here really soon.
I got one more thing. I'm actually going to be building a Slant 6 for one of our viewers. And I'm going to do all the work, all the tricks that I've kind of shown. We're going to do all that stuff on his engine. And he wants something just like what I do. It's something he can get into it, drive it anywhere in the country at 75 miles an hour and not have to worry about it. And I said, that's not a problem at all. So, yeah. So that you should see that coming up here soon. We should be connecting in the next couple weeks with getting his stuff. So, yeah. It's going to be an ongoing series that we're going to do. And so, yeah. It's going to be bitching. Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, until next week, be here at your not normal Farm Truck and Asian channel. I don't know. It doesn't work like the Batman stuff. So
Right.
Yeah. We'll see you next week then.
All right. You guys take it easy. Have a good week.